Hi, Steph. Oh, your quality is good, so I guess it's just random whose quality is good or not. Ladies and gentlemen, Spacewalk with me is about to begin. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello. I hope that worked. I really hope that worked. So yeah, hi. Welcome to Spacewalk with me. This is our second episode. I'm the host, Umar Azizi. I'm also the person who made it, and I'm the person who started it, who came up with the idea, just basically the whole thing. Spacewalk with me is a storytelling open mic show, and today we've got 6 people who will be telling stories with you. Maybe 7 if I decide to tell a story after this, but we'll see how we do for time. So here's how it works. So everyone gets on stage, and I'll introduce them briefly. And for the most part, as we are starting to build the show, most people, they just they know me. And they're going to be my friends. I'm going to introduce them. Yeah, and we'll hear stories. My story for today, just so you know, is I made a really fancy transition. I spent a lot of time on it, using free resources. And I'm not sure if it was worth much, but it was worth a lot to me. And that's what counts. Anyway, to kick it off, we're gonna start with someone who was on our very first show. This person, he was on the previous show, and he's someone I've known for about 8 years or so. He is a comedian, although according to his last story, he does not actually profess to be a comedian. And I just realized I've messed it up, but that's okay. We've changed the order. Oh my god, I'm so frazzled. Sorry, it's all technical difficulties all the way here. That's a story for another day. Anyway, I'm gonna stick to the original order, so that was a spoiler alert for the future. Our first performer is someone who was also on the first show. She is the host of Spoken Bird Poetry Open Mic in Singapore, which is happening on May 2nd at 8 p.m., which is next week Saturday. And of course, since it's going to be online, it's going to be open to everyone. So please welcome into your hearts Stephanie Dogfoot. Stephanie Dogfoot. All right. Give it a second.
I am unmuting, just unmuted myself.
Yes,
okay.
You are good to go, Steph.
All right.
Sorry I messed up your intro, but go for it.
That's fine. Okay, a story called, it's one of the first short stories I've ever written, at least in the last 10 years, that I'm ashamed of. And it's actually about a Singaporean who runs over, tell me if it's authentic or not. Okay, it's called Mr. Nick's Kampong. The food there was good, at least. Not that he had much of a choice or any right to complain. His knees had almost buckled with relief when that message from his old friend Wei Jie, they played football together at St. Pat's, came through. The message conversation went something like this. Wei Jie, 11:20 p.m. Hey, bro. Jaden, our hero, 11:20 p.m. Hey, long time no see. Wei Jie, 11:24 p.m. Heard you need a place to stay. Jaden, 11:24 p.m. Yes. Wei Jie, 11:25 p.m. You able to come to Port Dickson? Jaden, 11:25 p.m. In China from next week till June. 11:27 p.m. Jaden, seriously? Wei Jie, 11:28. Yup. Jaden, 11:28 p.m. Oh, you better not be fucking with me, bro. Jaden, 11:29 p.m. Lol. Jaden, 11:34 p.m. JK. Jaden, 11:37 p.m. Serious, right? Wei Jie, 11:45 p.m. Haha, you can trust me, bro. Jaden was grateful. No one could see him sobbing over Facebook Messenger. And then he was throwing a handful of t-shirts and some underwear and a toothbrush into a carry-on bag and was driving as fast as he could for the border. Would he ever be able to return? Who gave a shit at this point? And now everything was fine. Once he had crossed the border, everything felt almost too easy. Nothing odd about some nondescript Chinese man with a rimless glasses and a buzz cut. He'd shaved his head just before he left, passing through the checkpoint. The car had been remarkably easy to destroy, and in a patch of forest just before Malacca. It was so easy to feel invisible in this country. Everything felt bigger here. The roads wider, the highways taller, and the space, God, the space, the hills, the miles and miles of oil palms. Why had he waited till a disaster had happened to drive up here? What had he been so afraid of? Wei Jie had left the key under an empty flower pot. His house was a small one-story terrace that looked like it had not been changed since the 1970s. It was by the sea, a beach that had probably once seen tourists decades ago, but now was overrun with tractors and metal sheeting for construction projects. And the oil refinery. The huge, hulking machines that hummed constantly and rose out of the water like robotic Loch Ness monsters that seemed like they would dwarf Singapore's tallest construction cranes. They worked all day and through the night, forcing him to lock every window and the door in the house up to block out the never-ending drone. The drone, the first thing he heard when he woke up, the last thing he heard when he fell asleep, though only for a few hours at a time. He didn't dare travel too far from the house. He bought a newspaper every morning from the nearby mama shop just to check on Singapore news, holding his breath as he flipped through until he was sure there was no mention of his name. He went to the same restaurant for lunch and dinner, a 5-minute walk from the house. He couldn't be too careful. Wei Jie had told him the name of the restaurant. Best Hokkien Mee in Port Dickson. You'll never find anything half as good in Singapore. And he was not kidding. The place was called Mr. Nick's Crumple. He had never come across a Chinese restaurant with an English name before. The walls were white tile and... Sorry, there was some echo I could hear from my own computer. The walls were white tile with fairy lights strung up and pictures of garish flowers in vases. He marveled at the level of 80s kitsch. A tank of bulbous red and white goldfish against a faded backdrop poster of aquatic plants greeted. His first visit there, he was welcomed by a stout man with a shaved head and a red Hawaiian shirt. His name tag simply said manager. Good evening. He smiled wide in a thick Australian accent and a voice that sounded rougher than his young, shiny face betrayed. I'm Nick. Table for how many tonight? Just one. Oh, follow me, sir. Is it your first time here? Yes. Are you visiting Port Dickson? Just moved here. Oh, welcome. Where are you from originally? Singapore. Oh, a neighbor. What are you doing here? Looking after my friend's house. After that, I have my own online business. Good. So much cheaper to live here. So peaceful. Nick, the manager, smiled and smiled. Jaden wanted to ask how a place where people lived with a constant drone of machinery could be peaceful. But it was safer not to speak too much. He breathed a quiet sigh and stopped asking questions. He knew how capable people could be in places like this. Perhaps Nick had been raised in Australia. The restaurant had a wall covered in pictures of a white man with long white hair, a photo with what seemed like decades of grinning customers. A faded picture with a couple in thick square glasses, the date in the corner reading September 10th, 1993. A less faded picture with a August 01. A Polaroid of him and two young women dabbing in what was probably a more recent picture. Who's that on the wall? He asked his waitress in Cantonese one evening. After his third day had memorized order, iced lima with food and then an anchor beer after, as she cleared away his empty plates. Nick lah, she said, the owner. It must be confusing, he thought. Owner just sharing the same name. And how long is he owned this about him? He asked. He had not seen a single white person in Port Dickson since he arrived, and certainly never. The waitress blinked, frowned. Nothing? Why? And you mean he's still around? Yeah, him. She pointed to the manager, Nick, by the cash register, who was counting his cash. Was she mad? The only thing he'd had in common with the man in the photographs was his shirt. He was short, stout. He looked the total opposite of him. And there was no way he had been an adult in the 80s. Or the 90s. What? Maybe this was the idea of an inside joke? Where's Nick from again? Pertha, you know. She lowered her voice, put her face to his ear. He could feel her breath against his cheek, smell her perfume. You know, he moved to Port Dickson long ago to escape his wife. They say she tried to kill him, you know. He froze, a cold ringing in his ears. He was suddenly in a kitchen. Still in her hand, the sound of metal blade hitting kitchen tile still ringing in his ear. His right hand throbbed. His knuckles were covered in blood, and then the taste of vomit in... Oh, I know. You want a picture, right? Come take a picture. He was back in the restaurant again. Nick was running over with a Polaroid camera. No. It's okay. I don't like pictures. I'm not photogenic. He protested. This was the last thing he needed. This was fucking... This furry, said Nick, passing the camera to the waitress. All our loyal customers must have that picture on the wall. Say cheese. Nick put his arm around his shoulder and smiled widely, a professional at this. The flash blinded him for a moment, and then all he could see were floating glowing circles as his eyes adjusted to the light. He paid for his meal, left, before the photo was developed, almost running out of the restaurant. He would figure out how to remove his picture from the wall tomorrow. The night had been too strange. He needed this to be over. He needed a strong drink and to go to sleep, or at least try to. Oh, fuck. He was supposed to buy earplugs today. The refinery drones seemed louder that night. The sound spilled through every crack in the house. It was unbearable. He tried turning up the aircon, tried wearing his noise-cancelling headphones. It was too loud to sleep. Even after 2 Johnny Walkers, Waitier had not explicitly said that he could drink anything in his house, but he had not said that he was not supposed to either. He tried watching people read novels aloud on YouTube, but the drone kept going and he wanted to die. He gave up and went for a walk. Port Dickson was beautiful at night. He had not seen this many stars in years. He walked down the street, past the sleeping houses with the locked-up windows, past the beach, the pitch blackness lit up by the lights from the machinery, and then past the restaurant. Some kind of small animal squeaked as he passed a dumpster. Rats, perhaps. There was a man sleeping in an alleyway in the restaurant. Strange. He had not noticed any homelessness in Port Dickson yet, though he had not exactly explored the town much. He turned back when he reached the outdoor car park by the beach, the furthest he had dared to walk in the week that he had been in Port Dickson. The beginnings of exhaustion tugging at the sides of his eyes, past the squeaking bins, past the alleyway, and he was not sure what it was that compelled him to take another look at the man sleeping in the alley. Curiosity? On a second glance, he was not sleeping like a homeless person, at least not the ones that he had seen on overseas holidays who had slept on the sides of buildings curled up under sleeping bags on cardboard. He looked more like he had fallen over and passed out drunk. He got closer, and that's when he noticed the red Hawaiian shirt. Nick's mouth was slightly open, his eyes shut, his body stiff, no sign of injury anywhere. He now knew why he had assumed the person was asleep. He looked somehow peaceful. A line of ants was starting to work their way into his lids, his nose, and then that smell, the one he had first encountered just over a week before, that he had hoped he would never come across again. The wave of nausea, louder, and louder. He had to get out. And then there was a flash of white, and then nothing. There was some kind of dream. Images of goldfish, screams coming from far away, women's voices, families running around Port Dickson Beach, the wall in the restaurant with the pictures, except with no pictures. Except he was the one putting a picture on it. He was the one putting the first picture on it, and then another, and then another. Bodies, faces rubbed out, another picture, just a line of blurred faces. He wanted to scream, but all he could do was smile. And the more he tried to scream, the wider his smile got until his face started to burn. All he could do was put pictures on the wall. More pictures, more pictures, more pictures, more pictures. He opened his eyes to birdsong and a headache. The first thing he noticed were the concrete walls all around him. He had fallen asleep in the alley, a pool of vomit next to his head. What had happened last night? How drunk had he been? He stood up and walked out, brushed off his red Hawaiian shirt. Nick's kampong was next door. He went in for a coffee. The usual waitress was wiping the tables, smiled at him, said he was early and made his coffee just the way he liked it. He remembered something about a picture he had to take down, scanned the wall for it. It seemed that it had not been put up yet. The next most recent picture was of a short with an arm around the white restaurant owner, Nick. How strange. He splashed some water over his face in the toilet. He looked in the mirror, and his bright blue eyes shone back at him. His white ponytail had come hide it. Good as new. He got back to his seat, sipped his coffee, read the paper, scanning for what exactly. The more he tried to remember, the fuzzier it became, but he had walked into a room and forgotten what he had to take out of it. Something he had once been paranoid about. It felt like some kind of specific childhood phobia, like spiders or heights or clowns. Why was he going out of his way to look for it? It made no sense. A customer walked in, a woman carrying a baby. He recognized her. She was a regular. He had never spoken to her, but she smiled at him, got her baby to wave at him. He found himself walking towards her, smiling back and saying her name. Good morning, Eileen. And hello, Max. Toast again today? The way she said it felt like home. Baby Max, she said. Say hi to Uncle Nick. And that is the end of my story.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me just get back on screen. Hi, thank you, Steph. Thank you for your story. We're both on screen now.
Great.
Hello.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to say I cannot. So when you said he went to the toilet and he splashed some water on his face, I think I know what you meant, but I had the much more fun image of someone just going to the bowl and like. I'm sorry, I'm still there, but yes, thank you so much for your story. You're doing Spoken Bird on next week Saturday, correct?
Yes.
Very nice. Are slots still available, or should people just come and watch all the people, amazing people who are?
Yeah, I think slots are full up.
Okay.
Actually, you and Melissa were the last to sign up.
Oh, okay.
But people should definitely go and watch because we have some. We have two amazing features from Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be doing called they're a couple called Bani and Ila, and they do incredible poetry and music, and experimental like sound experiments and stuff. And they're creating something really special for the show.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Steph. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll see you next week Saturday.
I'll see you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Peace. Boom. And that was Steph. Stephanie Dogfoot. Do give her page a live. Stephanie Dogfoot. Yeah, that's the page. Facebook.com/Stephanie Dogfoot, I believe. But I'm not so sure on the URL. Met Steph for a few years now, and always been very fond of Steph, especially since he's the only other person I know in this Malaysia Singapore diorama, at least at the time, who does stand-up comedy, poetry, and storytelling. Although I believe a certain Juliana has also joined our ranks. Alright, so the next person we are going to see is a personal friend of mine. I mean, they're all personal friends of mine, but what I mean is this is a personal friend from high school. So this next person, he's a marine biologist, and if there's anything I want to share about him on my own anecdotes, because it's that we used to play Scrabble all the time. And I used to represent the school team. I went for one competition, but I used to represent the school team one time. So, and we used to play a lot, and I used to win a lot when we first started playing. This person, he's got a huge vocabulary. He's a biologist. And he says in his intro, he's been fortunate to encounter life at its most mind-bendingly extraordinary. So he likes to read up on so many words and stuff. So when we started playing regularly, I taught him all my techniques on how to be good at Scrabble, which is like keeping track of how many tiles are left, keeping track of what tiles have been used, what are the odds of you getting a blank, what are the odds of getting an S. Long story short, as I taught him, he started kicking my ass, and he has a great record against me now. So everyone, please welcome to your hearts a certain Russell Yong. Wait. Oh, Sim. Why are you on screen, Sim? What happened? This is Russell. So sorry. Alright, that messed up. Yep. So you'll be here to tell a story, right? Yep. Take it away. Hello?
I think
Oh, we don't play anymore. Yes. So,
yes.
I just want to say I spent like maybe 6 hours on and off testing settings, and of course when I'm about to when I go live, that's when everything drops. But that's life, I guess. Anyway, you were saying we don't play anymore. That's right, we don't play anymore because I rage quit Scrabble. I'm done with Scrabble. That is the reason. That is the official reason.
It sounds it.
Yeah, I am very okay with that reason.
It's the dream of every son to kill the father, as they say, and unfortunately, the less fun aspect of killing your father is that you don't get to play Scrabble with your father anymore.
Well, aren't I only like 3 days older than you? It's like.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yes. All right.
Anyway,
go take it away.
I guess I'll get into it. Yeah, so this is going to be very freeform because I didn't write a script and I didn't really write a story, so to speak. But it is a relation of an experience. It's pretty much autobiographical. It's the story of my life. And I'm going to fill it with as much random facts of random animals that you can get, and and these will be mostly animals that I've encountered, and it will sort of segue into sort of how the study of these things and the encountering and experiencing these things have touched my life. And it would always be greatest, I imagine, to start at the beginning and say that in my childhood I was always very interested in nature. The first book I ever owned, apart from the one that taught me what an apple in the ball was from a cat, was a study on animals, dinosaurs in particular. And I was just absolutely fascinated by the number of different varieties of amazing looking creatures and just how staggeringly much information there was on what existed around on the planet, both way before the human species and what exists right now. Obviously, I didn't intellectualize it to anywhere near that depth. I was 3 years old at the time. But what happened was I became better at growing this interest. And I was very fortunate to have parents who actively encouraged an interest in such a random thing as nature. The conservative element of Malaysian parentage means the parent is very good at imagining and preconceiving a future for their child. And I would say that I was very fortunate I didn't have parents who did conceive my future for me. But it was remarkable that my interest held against the conservatism that was inherent in their mindsets at the time. I was brought up Buddhist, very devout, and one thing that was constantly emphasized to us beyond most of the theology and the aspects of faith that we understood was to look at life as something that had a purpose, that everything on this planet that we observed, every phenomenon, every creature, every experience had a purpose to be here and fit into some part of scheme or a design. And This is something that seems to be resonating in a lot of different aspects of society. Everyone is constantly striving to understand what their functions are in life and what the reason of life is. And they read that reasoning or that quest for reasoning into every organism they see on the planet. The concept of intelligent design, all of these phenomena that we've come up with, these cultural aspects we've come up with, are all part of our quest to strive for meaning on the planet, because we're so sure as a species, absolutely so sure, that everything fits into a design for a reason. But again, these were all thoughts that were sort of far from my mind at the time. I was just an idealistic child who just wanted to poke at bugs and pick up beetles and look at birds and have a jolly good time of it. Eventually, those thoughts coalesced into a much more serious sort of sense, in the sense that I wanted to pursue it as a career. And ultimately, again, I ended up having the fortune to have parents generous enough to be able to see me through pursuing of a study in a degree in marine biology. And so it was that I embarked on the greatest journey of my life, which was the rest of my life. I arrived in Australia as a fresh-faced 17-year-old, eager to kick on and finally do what I felt was my true calling, which was to explore the richness and diversity of wildlife all around me, plants, animals, fungi, you name it. And I distinctly remember the first thing that we did in the very first field course that we did was a trip to a research station on an island just outside of Brisbane, where I'm based. And the key for this was to look for parasites of fishes. The person leading the course was a fish parasitologist, and the prac involved us catching a whole lot of fish in the net, bringing them back to the lab, killing them ourselves, which was always very fun. If you can imagine what it would be like to have to kill a fish, or much less butcher it, that's always fun to contemplate, and pull out whatever parasites you find. And the very first parasite that I ever found on a fish was a tiny crustacean called a copepod. This little shrimp-like creature was no more than 3 millimeters long. And it found a niche in behind the eye of this fish. And it bored a hole into it and just shrank down all of its body parts into an almost formless blob, such that it was basically just mouth parts and gonads. And you could no longer discern where its head was, you could no longer discern where its tail was, and it was just this most fantastic looking creature. And more than just the bold fascination of seeing a shrimp reduce itself to a shapeless blob, there's something about seeing an animal with an arse for a face that makes you reevaluate your views on life. The understanding that things could transform themselves in such radical forms to fulfill some sort of biological imperative was really fascinating. And that really was where it started my interest in these things. And the more I delved, the more I found. Inside the fish were a multitude of different creatures, protozoans with a single cell that just swam around busily inside the gut of a fish, doing nothing but digesting its poop for it. And worms, flatworms with suckers that just glued themselves to the insides of the intestine and passively absorbed the nutrients from the surrounding nutritional soup. And the wonderment of encountering this diverse range of life forms led me to further explore and catalyze my interest in the diversity of things that I found. And one thing that is very, very much possible for anyone to do, and I urge anyone to do this, is to go outside and just look and experience the nature around them. And what you'll notice at first is that the obvious things grab your attention first. The trees, the birds, the dog that's walking past, your neighbor's cat, that sort of thing. But what you will do is you realize that the closer you look, the more you will see. And the more you see, the smaller it gets. And what you come to realize as well is that those small things have the weirdest life cycles, the weirdest biology of anything you could ever conceive of. And that grabbed my attention all the way to the point where I ended up pursuing an honors, where I studied fish parasites, and then a PhD, where I also studied fish parasites. And some of the things that I encountered were just absolutely mind-boggling. There's another kind of crustacean, for instance, called a cymathoid isopod. It's a shrimpy-looking thing that lives inside the mouths of fish. Some people probably have already heard of this thing. It basically finds a way into a fish's mouth and latches onto the tongue and chews away at it, sucking on the blood and juices. The constant chewing motion reduces the tongue to a stump, and the isopod basically takes the place of the fish's tongue. At the same time, there will be other isopods trying to get in from the outside environment and infect the fish's mouth at the same time. However, those ones will have all started life out as male, same as the very first one. But the first one who gets there becomes a female, hormonally transforms herself to become a female, and she becomes the queen of all subsequent isopods that enter the fish's mouth, and she hormonally suppresses them such that they cannot become female, and their only purpose is to live in the mouth to mate with her and provide her with a source of sperm. And that is just an absolutely gobsmacking life cycle that you could just picture as like, it's inconceivable. And at the same time, there are other things, the trematode flatworms, for instance, that I encounter, which are the basis, in fact, of my studies, have a life cycle which involves pumping out millions of eggs from the guts or the gills or wherever they're infecting in the fish. The eggs hatch into larvae that swim into a snail. And in the snail, they form these clonal bodies, which are basically sacs. And those sacs only purpose on life. They are living beings. They take in nutrient and they operate like living organisms. And their only purpose is to produce yet more clonal bodies, to then produce more clonal bodies that produce the larvae that then leave the snail by the millions, that will then swim around into the water column and search out for the next host, which is usually a shrimp or a prawn, and it will infect that and form a cyst and hope to God that the shrimp gets eaten by a small fish that will then get eaten by a bigger fish, that will then get eaten by the biggest fish, and finally that's where the worm wants to be. And obviously such a strategy involves a lot of attrition, and which is exactly why the life strategy is to just play it by numbers, put out millions of larvae in the hope that just one of them makes it back where it can come from, and then in turn lay millions of eggs to hopefully have the one larva that infects one snail. And it's just absolutely fantastic to consider just how little value life has to a species like this, when the entire life cycle is engineered to, or has evolved, I should say, to systematically devalue all entities within it to basically a functioning unit that has to take its chances in the wider scheme, and hopefully it makes it and long enough to perpetuate the species. I ask you, what is the purpose of living if your only purpose is to live? And these were the sorts of philosophical questions that I found myself asking as I studied these things. And I noticed that what that did was change my life view about the purpose of life. If it was true that life meant so little to so many organisms on the planet, does that mean our lives are also, in essence, meaningless? But, I plowed on anyway. And the more I encountered in life, the more I found out just how fucked up the reproductive lives of so many animals are. I found a very fantastic little bug called a bird of paradise fly. Callipapas is the scientific name. The males and the females could not look more different if they tried. I urge people to look up Callipapas, Callipappus. The males are angelic, feathery, winged creatures that are about 1 millimeter long. They've got these beautiful fairy wings, and they can fly. The female is a centimeter long, so many times bigger than them, 100 times bigger than them, and has no face, is a shapeless blob. All she does is latch on to a branch and suck plant juices. And the males hatch out from the ground. They are basically walking Duracell batteries. They have enough battery life in them to find a female, mate with her, and die. That's all. Their lifespan as adults is half an hour. And if they don't find one, too bad. They just go ping like the Duracell bunny, and that's it. The inferior brand, I should say. The Duracell's the good one. The inferior battery brand is the one that goes and dies, and that's it. Half an hour, that's all they get. He mates, dies, that's it. The story ends for him. The female, what she then does, when she's ready to lay her eggs, she degrades her body in what they call an invagination. She basically carves a cavity out of her own body and lays her eggs into them, drops her metabolism to near zero, and basically dies. Her body's only function is to serve as a shelter for the eggs before they hatch. And when the larvae hatch, the first thing they do is they just leave, go down the tree, and go into the ground to develop into adults. And that's it. That is the mother's purpose. We always treasure the mother. We always talk about mothers like they're a sacred institution. On one hand, you can say this is probably the most ideal encapsulation of what a sacred mother is. They're sacrificing herself, literally carving out her own chest cavity to protect her young. But on the other hand, there is a glorious pointlessness to this sort of life, which I find just so endearing. And, life may have no more meaning if you were a larva trying to become an adult as well. There is a moth called a cossid, which lives only in dead wood, which has very little nutrients. So they live very, very slow lives as caterpillars. They live for 7 years in wood, slowly chewing away and getting enough nourishment until they finally develop into pupae and then come out as adult moths. Again, their adult life is 2 days, and then that's it. They just go. Life on planet Earth has shown that a glorious pointlessness exists to all life on the planet. And if that sounds incredibly nihilistic, people find it also very intimidating. It is scary to feel like life has no purpose, but I find it is the most liberating feeling on the planet. Understanding that you can function on this planet without any worry about whether you mean anything to it is incredibly freeing to the mind. And I think probably the most valuable lesson I have learned about life from studying biology. It's not the same as saying, do not cherish life. Life, to experience life and to be able to operate within existence is probably the most valuable thing you can have. As long as you understand that it's not a two-way street. Your life matters little to the scheme of things. And when you can find peace with that, you can find peace with the world. And I am at peace with the world, I think. I've got my medium, and I hope you find yours too. Thank you. Can't hear your mic.
All right. Yes, sorry, I forgot I muted my mic. But hey, thanks for the story, Russ. So just for everyone who's watching to know, I invited Russell actually, personal friend, marine biologist, because almost everyone here in the lineup today is, and I quote myself from the first show, some kind of performer. Yeah. So and Russell, of course, is a marine biologist. Yeah, correct. Specifically marine, right? Yeah.
Well, I'm also a zoologist. Yeah, I do all. I'm a marine and a land biologist as well.
A land biologist. That's the term. Okay.
Terrestrial.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a land biologist. Right. So I asked him to come on just to mix things up a bit, and I gave exactly one what do you call this, one condition, which was I thought you could talk about animals, and and you talked about all the animals as far as I could tell. Yeah.
Did I go over time? I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's just there so that people have a rough idea of how long things. So, more importantly, if this ever takes off and gets big, then yes, I will actually be counting time. While we're small and growing, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I will nag people if they go over time. So that's Russell. I've got some comments, mostly from Ui Huiki. Thank you for watching. You probably won't get this because you don't watch the show, Russell, but I'm not sure which part she commented, but she says, damn, she becomes Rose from Steven Universe, which I think is about the mother who's only there to pass on. But that's season 5 spoilers, don't worry about it. Yeah, all right, thanks, Russell.
It's not a show I watch, so I wouldn't.
Right, so thank you, Russell. Yeah, any parting words? Anything you wanna
No. I feel very privileged to have been invited on to share a little slice of my life and my philosophy with you, and I'd be glad to come back if you ever wanted me to, and I swear I'll script myself a little bit better next time.
No, don't worry about the script. I will say, however, that I was posting in the comments as the page Spacewalk with me, and you started, and then you talk about your fascination with dinosaurs, and I was like, oh, so this might be something to do with dinosaurs, and woof, it could not be further from dinosaurs than I can imagine.
Yeah. People always want to hear about the dinosaurs. They don't want to hear about the animal that carves out its own vagina to raise its eggs.
Hey, but if that's what makes them happy, go for it,
Yeah.
Just curious. Oh, I do have one question. So, did the interest with biology come first, or did you find out all these things? Like all these weird facts. Some might say morbid, but it's just facts of life. What do you call this? Did you know them first and then wanted to be a marine biologist, or did you get into marine biology and then you were like, whoa, what happened?
Started off as a kid, got into it. The more you get into something, the more information you assimilate, and the more that builds the interest, and the more you go, holy shit, I want to study this. This is fucking amazing. I want to be a person whose job it is to come up with this information so that people can repeat useless bar stories to each other about random animal bullshit. And I want to be the one who discovers that bullshit.
All right.
So,
okay. All right. Thank you so much, Russell. Thank you for your story. I will see you personally very soon. And
I hope to see you soon. Take care. Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah. Stay safe. That's the new goodbye, I think. Stay safe. Stay safe, everyone. Yes. Okay. So Russell has been muted from the stream, but he's still not on mute on me. Please mute your microphone, Russell. This is a very professional stream, ladies and gentlemen. A very professional production. Actually, I should probably get a second person to help me with this, but that's for later. Anyway, great story about animals. So the next person that is coming up, they are from Subang Jaya, and he's from Subang Jaya, and he's been doing open mic comedy for about 3 years or so. What do you call this? I'm setting up my screen to accept him. Please cooperate with me. My software is all free software. I've not invested in proper software yet. But yeah, so he's been doing open mic for 3 years. I've seen him on and off, but 3 years ago is when I started not being in the scene so much. But I do know him. Everyone, please welcome into your hearts, James Su. Hi, James. Hello. You there? Say something.
Yeah, hi.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm there.
Take it away. Take it away, James.
All right. Yeah, right. Thanks, Simon. So, hi, everyone. So, I'm James. Yes, as Ayman introduced me, so I actually started doing comedy, especially in the open mic scene 3 years ago. But it wasn't like that. Like, if you were to ask my group of friends, me doing comedy, it's the same reaction they will get when you tell them there will be flying cars in Malaysia. Highly unlikely. And I don't really have the so-called typical look of a comedian. Like, if I were to do a survey, the top 3 answers was probably either accountant, IT programmer, or an impersonator of 2 rich Chinese people. And by 2 rich Chinese people, I mean Lim Guanning and Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia. Yeah. So how I got started into comedy was it was way back in April 2017. So I was in my desk job and just going through social media during lunch break. And something caught my attention when I was scrolling on Facebook. My friend was interested in an event. So I was curious to see what kind of event it is. So it was a competition. And it wasn't just any other competition. It was a pun competition. And I was intrigued. At the same time, I was thinking like, I'll probably email the organizer later that day to, I'll find out more information about this competition. And which I did. And the next day I got a reply from the organizer who tell me all the details about this competition. But that one particular line in the email where he was actually requesting me to provide my details in order to be a participant. And I was contemplating having self-talk and monologue with myself on like, should I do this? Is this something I want to do? And after, contemplating on myself, I finally said like, you know what do I have to lose? Let's just sign up and just go for it. And fast forward to the actual day of the competition, I showed up at the B Publica, and I was both excited and nervous, as I've done like public speaking before, but to tell jokes in front of an audience, nerve-wracking is probably an understatement. And yeah, so once they called one by one, I was just waiting for my turn. And when my turn came up, I just went on stage. And I still remember like it was yesterday when I told my first ever joke, which was, I don't usually tell property jokes as is flat. Something along those lines. And it got a response, and I thought, just keep going. And by the end of it, I had this adrenaline rush that I've never had it before. Like wow, what is this feeling that I haven't had in a long time, especially being stuck in a dead-end corporate job. And so while they were like tabulating the results, so they invited 2 comedians to actually perform. And of course, later then I found out that these 2 comedians were actually at that time, the showrunners of Malaysia's longest running open mic called One Mic Stand, which was Brian and Prakash. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't know there was like the local comedy scene in Malaysia. So the following Tuesday, I went to check it out. And from there, I was like, oh, okay. Like, so this is the grassroots level of the comedy scene. And from there, I think my interests start to pick up, and I even went like for a comedy writing workshop by this British comedian called Nick Coppin, where I met some people who are still part of the local comedy scene. And on the 18th of July 2017, I officially made my comedy open mic debut at One Mic Stand. And I remember I was 4th in place, and it was not too bad actually for my debut. and probably I would say the rest is history. So if someone were to tell me 3 years ago that if I were to join this competition, it will lead me to experiencing performing in front of no audience, to falling flatly in a major competition, to all the way winning the pun competition, which was last year November, and being part of a comedy group called Party Comedy Riot, or in short PKR. That's what the funnier PKR. I probably would tell that person, you must be crazy, because never in my wildest dream would I have ever thought about doing comedy. So I think just to sum it up is like, yeah, if you ever see an opportunity, just say yes first and figure out later, because who knows when that opportunity will arise again. So thank you. And back to Ayman.
Oh wait, hold on.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, what does a comedian look like? I was asking.
I don't know.
No, you said you started right. Yeah, I don't look like a comedian. What's a comedian?
Yeah, I mean, at least to my group of friends, because I'm usually like the quietest one, like among my group of friends.
I see. Well, I mean, quiet doesn't mean much, right? Yeah. Property jokes. Is my lip bleeding? Oh my god. Split lip.
Okay.
Yes. This is family friendly content. Well, I mean, there was so much swearing and a story about Port Dixon earlier, so this is not family friendly anymore, I guess. Yeah. Thank you so much, James. Yeah. Is there anything you want to talk about? Let's say in vis-a-vis your PKR maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Look for Party Comedy Riot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and what are your Facebook and Instagram? If people should want to follow you, if you want to hear quiet person comedy. Oh man, this is really.
Yeah. I mean, Instagram will be at James KL Soo SOO, and Facebook is facebook.com/James KL Soo.
I see. Thank you so much. Sorry, I got really distracted. It's really because I can see myself. Normally, I can't see myself, and I would just go without comment. Diana says,
"Thanks for having me."
Yeah, Diana Munira. Wood. James. Ui. Usually, quiet people have the best jokes. Heh. I'm trying to embody that. Heh. All right. Okay. I'm gonna buzz you out now, and it's gonna be just me. Thank you again, James. All right, so that was James. Started about 3 years ago. I started comedy about 8 years ago, actually. We have quite a few different kinds of live performance scenes in Malaysia. Yeah, there's comedy, there's poetry. I mean, back when we could still see the sun with our own face. Like about 6 years ago, I estimate. Yeah, so there's the live theater scene. I'm wearing a theater modular shirt. I did a small gig with them one time. Oh my god, I'm blanking on the guy's name. Rush. Anyway, I was doing a small playlet. I did a small mini playlet. If I can remember the name, I will get back to you. But a small playlet, and it was directed by one of my friends, Nana. And she wanted me to be a part of the play. Yeah. So she said, I think you will really get this character. And so she told me, and she gave me the script. And I was like, oh, which character am I playing? And she was like, you're playing the sexist, misogynistic man. And I was like, oh, thank you. You said I really get the character. Oh, that's nice. I guess we're still friends. We are still friends. But yeah, just live theater, storytelling. There was storytelling before. It started with Big Fish. I think that was the first regular, odd schedule, but regular storytelling open mic. And then we had Sweat Hearts, which ran till late last year. And after that, no one's done anything. Hence why Spacewalk with me. Why the name? Because I like space. I'm okay with walking. But honestly, I feel like the title Spacewalk with me is like, let's go on a journey together. and that's why I picked the title. I'm going to set up the next person right now, all right? So the next person is the person I accidentally introduced at the start by mistake instead of Steph, right? According to the intro he sent me, he says he performed at the Bursae 4 rally in 2015. And as far as anyone knows, he is still the only stand-up comedian who has done so. I'm setting up his screen right now. And in a very short time, we are going to welcome Mr. Sim Tong.
Thanks, Aiman. Am I on? Cool.
Yep, you're on. Yes,
right.
you're on.
Hi, guys. Yeah, actually, I wasn't the only comedian at Bursae 4. In fact, there was Hishamuddin Rais was there, if you consider. But most people know him as an activist first, and not really. He was more like an activist who dabbled in comedy in a way, yes. But he was at every Bursae, basically. And but yeah, it was interesting. Yes, so the story, this is actually related to that story. In 2015 and between 2015 to 2016, I did a lot of political comedy, and it wasn't a conscious decision. It's just that the way I write comedy is the same as the way I write everything. I just start with writing about things that upset me. And in 2015, just like most other people, the thing that upset me the most was Najib. So so that's what I wrote about a lot back then. And I hated him up to probably a personal level. I hated everything about him. I hated like his pink lips and his raccoon mustache and his badger eyebrows and the way he was put on a pedestal by everyone. So I guess at the time when he was caught red-handed with like the 2.6 billion ringgit in his M-Bank account, I was actually rejoicing a little bit because although it was sad that like public money had been stolen, but at the same time as a Malaysian, I have been so used to the cronyism and the corruption. Like I always assume that public money is being stolen all the time anyway. So in a way, I had already accounted for it. So I kind of rejoiced, and I felt vindicated, because after years of rooting for the underdog and voting for the underdog and counting votes for the underdog that had not a snowball chance in hell of ever winning. Like for the first time, I felt like all of a sudden there's hope for change, So and this hope started finding its way into my comedy as well. And I was doing a lot of jokes about the situation at that time. And there was this one open mic show where I performed, and there was this girl who was really tickled by my performance, and she's like, "Oh, that was really funny." And her name, she introduced herself as Sharanya, and she said like, "Oh, that was really funny. I gotta get my mom to watch you." And I had no idea what she was talking about. So I just said and she asked when is your next performance? I said, oh, the next one will be the next open mic, which is actually tomorrow at the Crack House Comedy Club. So I didn't really think anything about it. I was just happy that somebody was happy with my performance. And then at the next night, Dato' Ambiga showed up, and then I put two and two. I performed, and she enjoyed the show. I did exactly the same performance. And she enjoyed the show. She had good laughs, and then I went to speak to her, and I said so you your daughter is Sharanya, and she's like, Sharanya, you mean Sharanya? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, Sharanya. And she was like, yes, that is my daughter. And so okay, I put two and two together, and I think that opened up some opportunity for me, and a a little bit later, I actually performed at the birthday rally. I was invited to perform at the birthday rally, and it was actually birthday 4, and it was actually the first time I was going to a birthday rally in Kuala Lumpur. In birthday 3, we kind of did kind of a cheap rally because we were out of Kuala Lumpur. We were in Churating having a family holiday. So we just held up a sign, took some photos, and, that was our birthday 3 rally. But birthday 4 was my first real street rally experience. And my friends were kind of like telling me, like, some of them who had been to other birthday rallies, they were telling me stories like, be prepared that the police is going to crack down, and like you're going to experience tear gas, and you're going to have to get ready for it and run away by like 5 o'clock. So I was like, kind of like preparing that there might not even be a performance, because I was supposed to perform at like 8:30 or something like that. So and then I also had like some friends and family members, mostly boomers, who were telling me like, don't go to birthday 4, it doesn't do anything. We have had 3 birthdays already. The government's still the same. It hasn't changed the government. If you really wanna do, these street rallies don't do anything. Going to birthday to take selfies doesn't change anything. So if you really want to do something, you have to like really do it like Occupy Wall Street, or do it like the umbrella movement in Hong Kong. Just go there and sit there and don't move until you get your demands met, right? You gotta really be strong like that. And so I was like, okay, never mind, I'm still going. And then a few days before the rally, there was actually some students holding this event called Occupy Parliament. So I was telling my friends who were saying that, like, you said like we should do, Occupy Wall Street. Now we have Occupy Parliament. You should go and join them. Of course, they didn't. They actually ended up going to birthday 4 to take selfies, just like I did. So that was that. And then it was an interesting experience. I was performing from the back of like this pickup truck, and then the speakers were actually pointing sideways. So I was performing to the crowd in front of me, and they were squinting. They couldn't really hear what was going on. And then I could hear laughter coming from the side, So only the people like on the sides were able to hear what I was saying. So it was an interesting experience, and I was glad that I got to do it. And then as time went by, I think I started feeling like I'm not sure if actually comedy can actually affect any change. I'm not sure about that, And then in 2017, in January of 2017, Donald Trump became the president. And at the time, everyone was shocked, right? Everyone was like, how can somebody who says all these misogynistic, racist things be the president of the free world? But he was, And so it was kind of like, and then I was watching all the comedy talk shows, and they were all kind of like poking fun of all the daily stupid things that he would say. But I felt like, at the time, they weren't really changing anybody's minds. So I felt like it's like one of those movies where the enemy is like this big monster, is like a blob, and the army shoots missiles and lasers into the blob, and it only makes it stronger. It kind of felt a little bit like that, like the comedy that was directed at Donald Trump was only making him stronger among his supporters. So I started feeling like maybe you can't really change people's minds with sarcasm. So I was like, so I started drifting a little bit away from it, which was kind of awkward because sometimes, my comedy had to do with a lot of more person. It was it wasn't very political anymore after a while, which was kind of awkward because sometimes the host would still introduce me as the comedian who performed at birthday, and then I would go up on stage and I would be like, so you know what I hate about strawberry jam? And then, the crowd would be like, what? Don't know what to make of it. They're like, what is going on? When's he going to start getting political? So, that's something else I have to deal with. But at that time I was thinking, so I was thinking like, well, if we can't really change people's minds with like sarcasm, with like irony, like then what do we do, right? And I find like we are always blaming the government a lot, right? And rightfully so, because the government do need us to keep them in check. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of times we absolve our responsibilities, and I'm guilty of that as well. When we talk about like, people are racist, it's like, oh, it's the government's fault because the government is always pitting people against each other. And that's true. But if you look at it that way, then like, well, they're not going to change because it's in their interest not to change, right? So like, how can we change them? And I think I thought about this for a long time, and I'm kind of deviating from the story a bit, but yeah. So, okay. In 2018, we managed to change the government, and then 2 years later, the government changed back, right? So, in a way, I felt like it was like, okay, maybe we are not really as ready for change as we thought. We could complain that, oh, this is not fair, it's the backdoor government, and I do feel that as well. But at the same time, it's like they do have at least a certain percentage of the mandate of the people, otherwise they wouldn't dare try it, right? So I always feel like maybe we have to change. We have to look within ourselves for racism, and so I I think like even like sometimes when I feel like, oh no, I don't have to, I'm not a racist, right? And then when I actually look at myself more closely, I do have a lot of prejudice sometimes. Like I'll give you an example. Like this is back in the days when we were going out to the shops, right? Back in the good old days, in the before the MCO. And when I was going to the shop, sometimes I would get shortchanged. And if the person who shortchanged me is non-Chinese, I would be very forgiving. I would be like, oh, he just made a genuine mistake. But then if the person is Chinese, I would be like, bugger, this guy tried to cheat me. So, that prejudice comes from somewhere, right? Comes from your very biased expectations. So I'm like, okay, if I look deep inside myself, I do find a lot of prejudice as well in a lot of situations. So I thought like, okay, just move forward to February of this year, like late February, when we weren't sure like who was going to be the PM. Was it going to be Dr. Mahathir? Was it going to be Anwar? Was it going to be Muhyiddin? We weren't sure, right? And up to that weekend before Monday, that time, it was late February, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm so sick of all the uncertainty. So I wrote something on Facebook to talk about looking for racism within yourself, like being self-reflective, looking within yourself to change yourself. Don't bother policing other people's racism, because what happens is you try to say like, when you try to talk about racism, what always happens is like people will be, they'll get into this whataboutism, it's kind of like, oh, you're talking about this, what about that? What about your people? What about this thing? So I'm like, okay, forget about all that. Just look within yourselves. Don't even bother policing other people's racism, because like you're just going to cause a lot of friction, right? So that was the whole gist of this post I posted on Facebook, and it was shared like 80 times or 80 something times, not exactly viral, but it was shared a bunch of times, and I was pretty happy that the message got out a little bit. And then I read the comments section, and in the comment section was just people who agreed with me, but they agreed in such a way, they're like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Those people need to change. So I'm like, oh, you guys are missing the message. So I guess in a way it's hard to get people to change, but I am still hopeful And sorry that this is supposed to be storytelling, but I got a little preachy towards the end. But I'm still hopeful. I'm gonna change myself, and don't. So the message is still, don't bother so much with other people. Just we all improve ourselves, and that's how we're gonna make the world a better place. Okay, that's the end of my story. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Sim. Hold on, I'm gonna put us both on screen, and there we go. Thank you for the story, Sim. I quoted you at one point. My favorite quote was, "Maybe we have to change. Maybe we have to look within ourselves for racism." Great line. That's an excellent line. I've immortalized it.
Thank you.
So I guess this is this informs your decision making, right? You said you moved away from political comedy because you wanted to because you felt comedy couldn't affect change.
I couldn't. Well, I didn't like. Also, it's kind of it's many factors. One of the reasons was I wanted to find comedy that was interesting to me, but that wasn't so interesting if I kept saying like, "Look at this guy, he's stupid. Look at this guy, he's stupid." But then their stupidity is also kind of repetitive. So I'm starting to become repetitive as well. You know what I mean?
Right. You depend on someone else to be the material. That's what happens. You
have
no control. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But what comedy does interest you then now? Just for people to know.
Generally, I would say I'm interested in things that people do, but they either mentally block out, or things that they say but they don't really admit it until you kind of like stop and think about it. Like, oh yeah, I do that, you know. So I look within myself for that. I'm like, okay, I do this stupid thing, and then I'll mention it, and then I'll see if other people laugh at it. I'm like, you guys do the stupid thing too, and then I feel a little less lonely. So
right.
Yeah, I look for things like that.
Okay, all right. So observations that are hard to admit, not difficult to admit, difficult to notice. Admissions.
Like stuff we block out. Yeah.
Yeah, we unconsciously block out. Yeah. All right, that's good. Why do you pick this story? Just curious. Like this particular story.
It's just I guess in the past couple of months, these were things that were on my mind a little bit, and I thought like maybe I could string them together to have some sort of coherent storyline. So so I thought like this might be interesting. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sim.
Thanks, Simon.
Any parting things? Anything you wanna promote before we
okay. I have a podcast that you guys can check out if you guys are interested. It is thebeautyofugly.podbean.com.
thebeautyofugly.podbean.com. Is that the only way to get it?
The Beauty of Ugly. I did submit it to other podcasts, but I'm not sure whether they're up in other channels yet.
Okay, and what's the podcast about?
It's just me just dumping my brain onto the podcast. So it's like no particular focus. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Sim. I'm gonna put you out now.
Okay. Thanks, Simon. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Cool. And that was Sim Tong. Right. So we've come to the last person in the list. What do you call this? I have to say, I really like all the stories that we've come today. I like that there's a bigger variety now. I actually don't impose any real limits on anyone. You can tell any story, fictional, real story. Today so far, it's been all based in reality of some sort, and that's fine and that's great. And that was Aminals, and of course, what we found out what Aminals was not the best, but that's how it is. But I feel like I would like to do one story, but not of my own. If anyone's still watching, could you come up? Do you have any please suggest a story for me to tell. I'll just have to make it up after the last act, if you want to hear that. I'll make up a short story based on whatever prompt you give. Hopefully, put it out in the comments, and I will check it out. And hopefully, it'll be ready after the last person. So I'm hoping that they will talk a lot. If someone actually puts up a comment. Anyway, so the last act coming up. Alright, he makes a durian butter chicken, lemon butter chicken, and is a community manager at a co-working space called Creator Space, which I've been to before. Sim and I actually did a sort of a comedian's workshop. And when I say workshop, I don't mean like, hey, a normal civilian could go and learn comedy, but it was it was a comedians workshop for comedians. Like people would like, it was about 10 of us, different comedians. We all sat together. We set up a small mini theater, and then we all just sat there and we just critiqued each other's jokes. And there is something similar right now. Actually, when I say right now, I mean like that's currently running every week or so, maybe every 2 weeks. I'm not sure. It's not been a consistent schedule yet. Run by a great comedian, Poon Chiho, and also Sim. It's called the Comedy Clinic. If you want to know how comedians like bounce ideas off each other, it's really just that for like 2 hours. Anyway, the last person, again, Durian Butter Chicken, Lemon Butter Chicken, community manager at Creator Space. Everyone, please welcome into your hearts a certain Mr. Oh, wait, I've messed up their name. Alright, there we go. A certain Mr. Umar. There you go. Hold on. You have not unmuted yourself, Umar. Please unmute yourself. At the bottom. Say something. Hello? Are you there? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Because I cannot hear you. Okay, I'm gonna change it to both of us for now while we sort this out. Man, I was I felt like I was so close to getting by without problems. Yes, there you go. All right. Okay, I'm gonna transition back to just you again.
All right. Hi everyone. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes. Go for it.
All right, I'm gonna go and move forward. All right, so I gave Aiman a choice between a Kancil story, revised, or a story about another hacker.
I didn't choose anything. Up to you.
Yeah. So since it's the second day of Ramadan, my family has a tradition that we go all out for the first Ramadan. This will be the first one that I could not by choice go back to have bubuka with my mother, and so I went out to make a really big dinner. Talking about my mother, she is the person that she's the glue for our family. She tries our best to make sure that we all have dinner together every single day. And I've only just recently really appreciated that aspect of my life, because not everyone has that. It's something that I had to learn the hard way. Right? Not everyone is used to making sure that they're at the dinner table, the hamandi, ready to eat, and the food's already there. I had to learn that the hard way. And I kind of miss that. I kind of miss helping out making dinner. So this is a story about another hackers, moms, and last meals. Here we go. Are you ready for a tale of sons, sea, and searching, of a family in want and left yearning? My story is sad for some, a horrifying tale of anak derhakas and ships and sails. My name is Deruma. My husband is now gone. And all I have in this world is my dear, dear son. I have a son, and so proud is he. He wants to provide for his family. And so he asks me, Mama, let me go on an adventure. Let me make us some money. I say, ya je, anak mama. But he's serious, deadly so. He wants to make life easier. He really means to go. So I spent some time giving it some thought. I prepared dinner. Ulam tumbuk daun ubi. And then I say, my son, my boy, the only one left out of 3. If you have to go, I will let you be, but do not forget a mother's worry. Because I will worry. Come back safely, okay? Come back to me. And so he goes off sailing. I hear from him time to time. And suddenly, the letters stop coming. I must admit, It's a quiet time. The days start and end, and I go throughout my day. No longer reading letters. It feels like I barely even have a family. My dinners are small, no longer large, but I still make my family's favorite dishes. Ulam tumbuk daun ubi. My husband and I, we wait patiently. And then I get one last letter addressed solely to me. It says, Mother, I have been away. Sorry for the letter delay. The ship I was on, it took on pirates. But they adopted me and took me in. And now the captain wants to marry me to his daughter. Oh, and I don't think I can contact you anymore. No, I love you. No, nothing. I haven't heard from him since. But news tell me that he'll be in the harbor later today. Marry someone's daughter, yeah. I'll go see him, that anak dahaka. See, my name is Daruma, and now my husband is gone. And all I had in this world was my dear, dear son. Some say that Sidaruma never got to see her son. Others say she joined him on a trip around the world. And depending on who you ask, the story slightly differs. But one thing is for sure. No one knows why exactly were there statues found washed up on the harbor that looked a lot like anak Sidaruma. All right, thank you. That was my story for Spacewalk. Ta-da. It's a bit of a downer compared to the previous one. I hope it was okay. Yeah. So the story I wrote was primarily for it was written in the idea that young children will be able to perform it, to read it for others. There was another story that I gave option which was for a rereading of Sea Kancil. I'll spoil this one. This one, the Sea Kancil doesn't really survive the whole hopping on alligators. I don't think it ever made sense why a small animal would survive that. And I also don't appreciate the fact that in the story about Sidaruma and her anak, that we never get the point of view of the mother. I always felt that was a huge miss, because like we had a story about the son goes and then gets captured by pirates, and then like, oh no, he forgets about his mom and all that, but we never really get an input from Duruma. So that's why I wrote this. I want to expand on it, but like I don't have much information about single mothers who have been left, so not much to work with. So I'm hoping to interview some people to add to this, but that's after Aremola. Or if you have anyone who's going to contact me and like talk about this stuff, would really love to hear, and I'll be able to add a bit more, I guess, authenticity to it. Yeah. I can't hear Ayman.
Oh wait, hello.
There we go. Hello.
Oh my god. Okay, sorry. I think that was Alice. She was like playing with the mic and hit the mute button. Anyway. Yeah, so I just want to talk a little bit about the please get in touch with Umar, if you know anyone who could help him with his research. But also I do want to talk a bit about the sign up form. Thank you so much for filling up, as did everyone. It helps me generate a list of stuff. I feel like I've skipped some of the sections over this list today just because there were some technical problems, but also I would like to say that when you filled it in and you put in, like, hey, I've got this story or this story or this story, what I thought you meant was, I've got these 3 stories and I'm going to pick one of them and we'll see how it goes. But from the way you explained it just now, you were expecting me to pick. And
No. It wasn't that. I'm just telling people that's why I sent to you. Okay. But I completely understand that there is no audience that can be like, hey, we want this story. So just like,
So I was not aware. Yeah, that's how it came across to me just now when you were setting it up, and I was like, whoop, okay. Sorry, was I supposed to do something? Anyway, thank you. How was Bubuka?
It was great. Today I finally finished off some lambs. I sous vide some lamb that I got from the farm and served it for bubuka with sayo, and also what else was it? Did I have salad? That's it.
Okay. Okay, Umar. Before we go, I would like to ask you to tell me what is. Oh, that's great. That's a lot of Umar in the screen. I would like to tell you. I'd like to ask you, what is the strangest thing you can see outside now? What do you think is the strangest thing possible you can see outside right now? Maybe not right now, but like in the days today.
In the days today, I guess.
Yeah.
It would be whenever I go out to restock.
Mm-hmm.
The weirdest thing would be seeing like everyone taking care of their distance. It's just like everyone be super aware of themselves, because like on normal days people are like, I'm just going to stare at this, I'm going to be in this aisle producing through and like spending like 5 minutes like, oh, want this. Now it was like, okay, item, cake, block. Okay. And I'm like, oh, I kind of like this almost robotic experience that it is shopping now. Everyone goes beeline to where they need to go.
Is that strange though? It's like 6 weeks. Is that strange though at this point?
It still is. I mean, I'm used to going to pasar where like it's a free for all. Like your hand will have touched 4 fishes that another 50 people would have touched, most probably. Now everyone's like super careful, super like okay. I'm like,
okay, cool. Okay, cool. And tell me, if I told you to think of a star that's real or fictional, what do you think of? Up to you, real or fictional.
I have a question. Like, is it like a performer or like an actual star in the sky?
Up to you. Whatever your interpretation of that sentence is.
Okay, if you ask me that question, then my answer would be, I'm thinking of a Japanese anime character which had a closing song that refers to 3 stars, Alta, Vega, and something else I can't remember.
Oh,
it's a really cute ending song.
Passing this to you. What anime is this? What anime is this?
I think it's Boku Monogatari, the first season. Yes.
Boku no Monogatari.
Bake Monogatari. Yeah, Bake Monogatari.
Bake Monogatari.
Yes.
Is that the one about the drawing manga?
No. This one is about this one dude that has to deal with a lot of high school level ghosts and spirits and has to solve them.
Oh, I definitely didn't watch or read that then. Okay.
Visually, it's very pretty. Thematically, it's visual. Also, it's very, very. I don't know. It's Japanese novel made into an anime.
But what's the premise of the show?
This one boy meets different characters, mostly girls, because it's the usual harem. But each one of them has a spiritual haunting thing happening on, and he has to help solve these problems.
Okay, I feel like there is a ghost haunting your webcam right now that just kind of hates your face, but not all of it.
Yeah, it's zooming into my face whenever I go off a bit, and then it forgets where to zoom to.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what Boku no Pico is. Uihuiki just did it. Anyway, so I was asking you this.
No.
What is Boku no Pico? My what? What's Pico? My. Is this a bad word?
No, it's not. It's very not okay to watch with family. Like if you want to look at it, it's underage stuff and not really the good thing. So don't. It's not something.
Okay.
If we're not family safe with curse words, it's not safe to discuss.
Okay.
If you hope
that was cursing, yeah.
Watch this.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So tell me about Bakemono. So it's about ghosts and they're haunting stuff, right?
Yes, haunting individuals specifically
individuals. Okay,
yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Umar. You have been a great help with those last seemingly random questions. But yeah, okay. Thank you for your story, Umar.
Welcome.
All right. So that was Umar, ladies and gentlemen. And oh, whoops! I pressed the wrong button. That's Umar's face still. Okay, my bad. Yeah, I really should get second person to help me out with this. Anyway, so this is the time for the story. I was hoping Umar could generate a great story for me, and I really regret asking him to passing the prompts to him. So Ui's prompt was the something strange you saw while sneaking out for a jog, and Shakira's prompt was a story about your fascination with stars, real or fictional. And I really, really regret the second one, but I'm just going to try to combine all the prompts given together. Okay, so here's the setting. Oh no, to officiate it, let's change the background. So while I was out jogging, right? There we go. All right, guys, I need to tell you something. Man, you're not gonna believe what just happened. So I was out running in my garden, as you can see here. I was out running in my garden, yeah. Just trying to make sure that no one could see that I was outside and running. And I know it's within my, my small garden, but I was trying my best to stay away, hidden from the authorities, because they were gonna arrest me if they could see me outside jogging. Yeah. So to make sure they couldn't do that, I started running at full sprint, and I'm so tired. And I just broke my record for fastest mile, because at the half mile point, I saw something I could not believe. I saw at the pasar, at the wet market, I saw these fish, these gutted fish, and they rose up from the wooden boxes that they came in. They rose up amongst the ice, the dry ice steam coming off from the grounds of their back fins up onto their front flipper fins. And they looked at me. And they said, "You're next." And I ran. I could not abide all these fish. It was 2 fish. But I feel even one is too many. And I outran them, of course. They are tiny back fins. They're trying to walk on humanoid. Not great for running. Not great for jogging. Barely adequate for crawling. But they were flopping, and they were flopping much closer. But I gave them the slip. I just ran out past the entrance to the pasar, and I got home as fast as I could. I'm recording this right now because I live alone. If you don't see me again, just know that the fish got to me. The fish is coming. I don't even know what fish it is. It's not a shark. Maybe it was a tangiri. But it's coming. It's gonna get my head. And when it does, just tell my cat, "You can have the fish." The end. I didn't explicitly say the fish was haunted, but I feel like you get it. Anyway, that's the show. That's the show. I tried really hard. Oh man, I really regret giving Umar those prompts, but stick with what we've got. Rule of improv, yes and. Okay, so I'm just gonna peek into the chat and see who is still online. Yes, everyone is still online. So I'm just gonna bring everyone back on just for like a quick photo op. Alright, 1 second. Let me just switch the screen. Everyone, you can unmute now if you want. Yeah, just feel free to unmute. Ooh. This is the roll call at the end. Not everyone is here. We have top left James Su, Sim Tong, Umar, myself in the bottom right, and we are missing Steph, and I feel like we're missing one more person who I can't remember right now. But that's okay. That's okay. It's Russell. Fine. And Russell. Oh yeah, just my friend. It's okay. Anyway, yes, that was Spacewalk with Me Edition 2. Lots of little hiccups as I work things out. This is basically a one-man show, really. I run basically every single aspect of this, including the setup, the transitions. I'm the one that's changing all the scenes. I'm putting people on mute. People are individually unmuting, but basically, yeah. I hope you liked it. Anyone who's watching, I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for giving comments and love. And I would like to ask all the performers who are still here to just do a quick photo op. And by that, I mean, please smile, hold your smile for maybe five excruciatingly long seconds, and so that I can screen cap this later. Okay. Oh wait, hold on. Chill out. Relax your face. I need my branding for this. Relax. All right. Okay. Everyone can smile. Yes. Yeah. So okay. So smile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not normal number 5, but that's okay. I do want to apologize. I did ask everyone if they had content warnings, and I think some people wrote it, but because of how I've set up my screen today, and by that I mean because of where Alice is sleeping, my webcam is directly blocking that, and I just realized it as I switched screens.
Okay.
So I apologize for everyone who I didn't give a content warning to, but nothing that bad happened this week, I think, except for the nihilistic animal stories, but that's okay. Yes, so thank you everyone for joining in. I hope you liked all the stories. I hope my story was okay. My improv
great.
story was okay. And yeah, we'll see you around. We are going to go offline. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Arman. Thanks, everyone, for your stories.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. And stream.